and welcome to Miss Bailey's Daily Dose. Today we are going to be learning the names of the bones of our skeleton and what their functions are. So what each of those bones do to help protect and support us. So we know that we have lots of bones that help to protect our essential organs and support our muscles and our tendons. Without the bones of the skeleton, we'd look like this person here. We'd be a blob of water-filled tissue. That does not sound nice at all. And we wouldn't be able to move the way we move and do the things we do. We need that skeleton and we need those different bones to allow us to do the activities that we're used to doing. We'll go through first some of the main bones of the skeleton, and then we'll go through later what their actual functions are. So I want you to have a look at this skeleton and see whether you can remember any of the names of those bones. So what is the bone called that protects your brain? What are the bones in the hands called, or in the feet, the legs, the arms? See whether you can remember any of those names. If you can't, by the end of this lesson, hopefully you'll be able to label every single one of these main bones and know what their functions are. So don't worry, don't panic thinking, I don't have a clue, because you'll know by the end of the lesson. If you do know, it'd be a really good time to pause the video now, and then you can write them down on a piece of paper or draw your own skeleton and see whether you can do it already, which would be fantastic. Then we'll look at the functions. So I'm going to go through the bones now. So the skull, see if you can say that, the skull. And the skull is the hard bone that protects your brain, so it's really important, the skull. Then we have the rib cage, so that's protecting the vital organs of your heart and your lungs that help you to breathe. That's your rib cage, and you can feel it actually here. So we've got our skull and our rib cage. We've got our spine, and that's the big bones, the vertebrates that are going all the way down your back, and they allow you to move forwards and backwards and sideways and all over the place. So we've got our skull, we've got our rib cage, we've got our spine going all the way up. Then we've got the ham bones, and you're going to find out what their names are later, so we'll go into that afterwards. But we've got lots of bones in our hands, our carpals, our metacarpals, and the bits at the end called the phalanges. And then we've got our foot bones, so our tarsals, our metatarsals, and our phalanges. So the ends of our fingers are called phalanges, and the ends of our toes are also called phalanges. So we've got the skull, the rib cage, the spine, the bones in the hands, the bones in the foot. We've got the scapula, which is the shoulder bone at the back here. You've got two of them, so one here and one here. That's called the scapula. The scapula. Then you've got the pelvis, which is this point here, and the pelvis connects your legs to your torso. So, skull, rib cage, spine, hand bones, foot bones, scapula, which is your shoulder blades, pelvis, and they're the main ones that we're going to be learning about today. So what do bones do? Like I've said already, they protect your organs, your heart, your lungs, your liver. All of those things need to be protected because they're soft and we don't want them getting broken. So the bones help to create those cages, like for example our brain, our skull creates a boned cage that protects our brain. An adult has 206 bones throughout their body. So that's 206. So see if we can say that? 206. So 206 bones, and it helps to support, protect, and without it we'd be like a big wobbling jelly. We wouldn't be able to do anything. Okay, we'd be on a pile on the floor. Some bones help us to move, so the bones in our hands, the bones in our feet. Our leg bones are arm bones. They help us to move, to grab, to twist, to shake, to dance, to skip. All of those things help us to move. Bones in the legs help us to run and jump. And where two bones join together, we call that a joint. So for example, in the arm, there's a big bone coming down here, which is called the humerus. And then we've got the radius and the ulna. So the radius and ulna join with the humerus, and we call this bit a joint, which is the elbow. So that's where two bones join together. And bones are held together by tough fibres called ligaments. So ligaments join those bones together at the joints. Bones are made of living tissue. This is something that people don't think about. Bones grow, okay? When you're really young, like you guys are now, your bones are still growing. That's why you need to drink lots of milk, so you have lots of calcium so you can grow really strong. And as you get older, they then stop growing because they're fully formed. Each bone has its own special names and it's made up of several layers. Half of your bone is just made of water, which is really strange because you wouldn't think that, but it is. So your bone is made up of different things and water is one of them. So I'm going to start with the skull and what that function is. So why do we have a skull? What's the point of it? Well, there are 29 bones all together in our skull, and it helps to protect one of the most vital organs, our brain, and that's really important. The jaw, which is the mandible as well, helps to protect the teeth that are inside, your tongue, your vocal cords, all of that section, that's called the mandible. So that's also part of the skull and the jaw, so it's more the jaw, the mandible. And they help to protect your brain, your eyes, your ears, like I said, your teeth. Really, really important. Then we've got the ribcage. So that's skull, helps to protect your brain, your eyes, your ears, your teeth. You've got your mandible, which is part of your jawbone. Then we've got the ribcage, and this protects your heart and your lungs, which is what helps you to breathe in and breathe out. There are 24 curved bones, and the sternum is this bit here. It runs right down the middle. So the sternum runs down the middle where those 24 bones in the rib cage connect. And if you have ever hurt your ribs, or your parents have ever hurt their ribs or broken their ribs, they know how much it hurts to hurt your ribs or break them. Then we've got the spine that's going all the way down. So you can see that at the bottom bit here. It's made up of 24 individual small bones, and we call them our vertebrae. So our vertebrae, 24 of them, make up our spine. It supports our head, it supports our body, it helps us stay upright, it helps us move forward, move backwards, curve, twist, all those things that we do. And each of the bones are linked by small joints. Like I said, when two bones are joined together, they join with what we call a joint. So those 24 bones are joined with those small joints. And they move a little bit. And those 24 bones, you have to be really, really careful with your back and your spine because you can hurt it quite severely. And when you do hurt it severely, it means that you can become immobile, which means you can't move and you can't do the things that you'd like to do if you damage your spine. So it's really important. There's loads of important nerves that make up your spine as well as those bones. And those bones help to keep those nerves nice and safe. Lots of small movements add up and let your spine bend a lot. So all those little 24 bones in different places help us to bend. If we didn't have all of them, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do. So if anyone's a gymnast, the back overs and hand walks and things like that they do, where their spine is bent right over, they can do that because of those 24 little bones that have that movement in it. We've got the bones in the hand. So we've got our carpals, which are our bones in our wrist. We've got our metacarpals, which are our bones in our palm. And then on the end, we have our phalanges, that's what we call them. So we've got carpals in our wrist, metacarpals in our palm, and then our phalanges on the end. And again, these bones help us to pick up things, to write, to eat, to hold things for a long amount of time, twist things, pull things, all of those actions that we take for granted. Our bones in our hands are allowing us to do those things. Then we've got the bones in our feet. So we've got our tarsals, our metatarsals, and again the phalanges at the end. And there are 26 bones altogether in the foot. So lots and lots of bones in the feet. They make an arch shape that allows you to point your toes. So if you're a ballerina or a gymnast, you'll see them pointing their toes with lovely arches, and the bones allow them to do that. And it helps support the body when you stand up. Your little toe, in fact, helps you to balance properly. So if we didn't have that little toe, we wouldn't be able to balance, and we wouldn't be able to do those things that we take for granted. Like when you get up in the morning, first thing, and you get your feet out and you stand up, you'd be wobbling all over the shop if the bones in your feet weren't strong enough to support your body when you stand. Then we've got the femur. Now the femur is the big bone going from the pelvis down to the kneecap. The kneecap's another joint. So it's the big bone running in your part of your leg here. It's the longest and largest bone in the whole of the skeleton, whole of the human body. And like I said, it forms part of the hip and part of the knee. So it joins at the hip here, it runs all the way down to the knee joint, and that's called the femur. Femur. You can see it here. Then you've got the knee joint, which is also known as the patella. Then we've got the scapula, which is also known as the shoulder blades. It's flat, it's a triangular bone at the back, and it lies over the back of the upper ribs. It helps with movement of the arms and the shoulders and helps to support the ribs as well. So that's the scapula, that flat triangular bone. Helps protect even further the ribs at the back. Then we've got the pelvis, and it's shaped almost like a bowl. You can see it here, the pelvis. It holds all of the organs in the lower part of the body, and it's slightly movable, so I can go round, whoop, and round again because of the pelvis, but it's not too movable, because if it moved too much, we might break it, because it's a bone. So we've got our pelvis, we've got our scapula, we've got our femur, which is the largest and longest bone in the human body. We've got our hand bones, our carpals, our metacarpals, our phalanges, our feet bones, our tarsals, our metatarsals, our phalanges. We've got our skull, lots and lots. So for your task, I want to see whether you can put the bones of the skeleton together to make a full skeleton, label it, and then say what the functions of each of those bones are. So for example, here is a skeleton that's all over the shop. All the bones need to be cut out using scissors and fixed together. And then you can label them, just like this one. And today we've had a look at some of the main bones of the wrists, the hands, the fingers, the feet, the scapula, we've got the skull. All of those bones are really important, but there are also lots of other bones of the body. So if you put your skeleton together and you have a look on the internet about different bones that you could add on, you could also add those to your diagram too. So you're going to put your skeleton together, and then you're going to label the bones. And then on a separate piece of paper or on a notebook, wherever you like, you can say exactly what each of those bones does. Or you might even add it on here if you've got space. But my writing's quite big. So I might put something like